Welcome to The Winding Yarn, a witchcraft and knitting podcast by me, Kira. I am a knitter and a witch living in Northern California. And welcome back if you're returning. And I'm so glad you're here either way, but if you're new, yay, welcome. So this is episode 3, and I had actually recorded episode 3. Hopefully my mic will stay put on my loosey-goosey boat neck back wing here. I had recorded episode 3, and my cat's going to come up here and join me in a second. And wasn't super happy with it. I don't know. I felt like it needed more. So I have decided to start talking more about witchcraft and some of my earth-based practices. Here comes the cat. This is William Blake. Would you like to say hi to the people? There he is. Say hi. Look over here. No. He just wants to settle and knock over my mic. I'm nervous about talking about witchcraft in like a more public setting. I've kind of hinted at it on like my Instagram and on this podcast. Apologies again about the cat and the mic. But I've only been practicing for a couple of years, like officially. And we're back. I think I was saying I'm nervous about talking about witchcraft because I've only officially like had the realization that I'm a witch for the last couple of years, or it's been a couple of years, and so I feel like I'm really new to it, and also coming to it as an adult. It's especially like growing up evangelical Christian, there's still like a lot of stigma, and I have some family who I know would not care to understand, so like I'm nervous about that. I'm nervous about things along those lines, but it's important to me, and it's also I know super popular, like the witchy aesthetic and witchy approaches to things. So I know that I will have support and find my people through that as well. So I'm taking the risk. Here we are. I love to talk about it, so I'm excited to share all that with you, and hopefully you're here for it. I'm going to keep all of that witchy stuff to the end of the podcast, but I am sitting in front of my altar. This was my great grandma's desk, secretary desk, and it used to hold my yarn stash, and now it holds all my altar tools. My kid is on the other side of that wall. He's not asleep, and my husband is popping in and out. He's baking me a cake. Today is my birthday. Happy birthday to me. Drinking a kombucha. Birthday kombucha. Anyway, so let's talk about the knitting. Cat, it is so hot. I'm so hot right now with you on my lap. Big yawn from the cat. He doesn't care. Well, let's start with what I'm wearing. This is the boat Boat Neck Bat Wing by James N. Watts. I made it out of knitting for olive pure silk. I don't remember what the colorway is. It's in my Ravelry. It's a great summer top. I know it's only April, but I wore it and shorts to go grocery shopping this morning. I did wear a sweater when I was watering my plants, like in the shade, but as soon as I was finished with that, I was warm enough to go out and about without any other layers. So good old NorCal. It's hot. It's been a really hot spring too. We've had a couple of nice cool days, but not a lot. And not enough rain. But anyway. So that's what I'm wearing. And then things that I've finished. Hang on one second. Okay. Hazel is now in bed. We will see if he stays there and actually takes a nap today. That would be nice. That'd be a nice little birthday bonus. Yeah, I knit this last year. I wore it quite a bit, and I'm going to wear it quite a bit this year too. You want to come up here, cat? Next, before I get too warm, I showed you this as a whip. This is the Easy Eyelet sweater scarf dupe for my cousin by We Are Knitters. It is quite long. And We Are Knitters, they make you buy the pattern or buy your yarn to get the pattern, which is silly. I was not going to do that. So here, I'm going to try not to bump the mic too much and demonstrate this. But yeah, this is for my cousin. And I hope it's not too long. I did have her try it on. Let me see if I can stand up. Back up as much as I can here. Yeah, there you go. So there it is. And it just goes around once in the back and has these little sleeveys and has eyelets and is beautiful. There's a little thing on it. Get off there. Blocking it was insane because it's huge. But yeah, it's very cool. Oh, cat, excuse you. Move, please. Anyway, it's really hot, so I'm going to take it off. But that was definitely a labor of love because it was really boring to knit. The end result is worth it. Definitely a project knit versus a process knit. And then folding it up is also, I'm trying to fold it up to keep the edges from curling, and it's a whole thing. But anyway, yeah, so she picked the yarn. It's Knit Picks. I forget what the colorway is. It's their worsted weight wool of the Andes, which I love. It's, as far as like cost effective and huge variety of colors and great yarn, non-superwash. Yeah, can't go wrong. So sorry, I'm just trying to roll it up. She's about to have a baby, so I'm just hanging it onto it until she's like settled. They're also in between housing. It's things are nuts for them right now. So I am not going to try to drop this off anytime soon, especially because it's hot and she's not going to wear it. So there's that, the Easy Eyelet sweater scarf for my cousin. And I had 2 extra balls of yarn. I tend to have extra yarn. I don't know why, but toss that over there. Okay, so that's finished. What else have I finished? A bunch of little things. So, kombucha sip. I did finish these. The DRK Everyday Socks. I still don't like them. I knit them on a size 1. That usually gets me a sock that I like. And I figured it would be, maybe I should have gone down 1 though, because the rib tends to be looser. You know, they tell you to go down a needle size when you're doing cuffs in rib. So I didn't think about that. They're way too long as well. And then they're too loose generally. So I have worn them. I'm going to show you the bottoms of worn unwashed socks. Sorry, that's the oven. Okay. It's felting. This is Felici, Knit Picks Felici. And this was like half a day of wearing, and it's felting already. So I don't know if part of that's because it is so loose or what, but yeah, I did like the Flegel heel. I'd like to try that again and maybe just knit it a cup, like maybe 2 inches shorter before I get there, because literally I can pull it up to this point around my heel, and this is just hanging out. But after washing them, I put them through a regular load of laundry. They did shrink up a little bit, but not because it's superwash, not really at all. So yeah, that's kind of my review on that. I'm not going to be knitting that pattern again because I don't like knitting in rib. It just takes longer. And with socks, I like things to go quickly. And I also don't like to have to think about it, because I tend to bring socks as like a travel knit, just stockinetting around forever. Yeah, but I finished those. So on to the next pair. I'll show you that in the whip section. Then Hazel has been asking for a pair of mittens forever. And so I made him a pair of mittens real quick. They're very cute and tiny. They're almost too small for him already. He is big for his age, but he's probably not going to get to wear them next season. But you know, he wore them on our way out the door once when it was chilly. But yeah, I used Noro something. I didn't have the band. This was a skein that I snagged at Goodwill. In their craft section, they have like bundles of yarn, at least at our local Goodwill, as they come in. And I've gotten some decent stuff from there. Have like a sweater's quantity of knitting for olive mohair that I got at a thrift store once for $10. Anyway, yeah, some these are tin can knits, simple everyday mittens or whatever. They're one of their free patterns. Anyway, I knit those, finished those, and then the last FO I have is kind of a spontaneous cast on. Get these arranged here. They're so cute. Little Chicks by Susan B. Anderson. Little Chick and Cozy. Aren't they so cute? So I wanted to make a little something for Hazel for his Easter basket. And this one's his. It's named Washington. He named it. There's some beans in its butt. And yeah, and there's little felt mouth and feet, and then this little egg cozy, which is really cute. Hazel can hook his finger in there and carry him around. And then I made a little matching one for his little friend, one of Hazel's little friends, who actually just got chicks. So, and they got some gold laced Wyandottes who look like this currently. So I'm going to give that to them this week. Yeah, Little Chick and Cozy, pattern by Susan B. Anderson. These took me a week to do, both of them. Just spending a few hours. Like, you could get the chick done in a night, the egg cozy in a night, after bedtime, that kind of thing. I mean, it's a late night, but each step takes a couple hours, but still really quick, really gratifying, really cute project for Easter or Osara. So yeah, there's those little guys, and then what else? I did paint some more chickens. Sorry, I'm opening a package here. And I think that one's new to you. There's a chicken. That's an older one. This is a gold-laced Wyandotte. There's a chicken. I think I showed you that one before, and you've seen that one as well. So those are some chickens that are currently available. They're $25 each. A little original freehand watercolor, and pencil and pen in some cases. But yeah, chicken art. So speaking of the chickens, I've been saving my pennies from chicken art sales, and I sold some pet portraits, and I got some birthday money. So I'm pretty sure the budget will have been met. I just asked for money for chickens for my birthday. So I'm having dinner with my family tomorrow, but my parents and sister and grandma and husband and son. So I'm expecting a little more cash for the chickens. And then hoping to get chicks soon. So I think we have pretty much everything we need to get chicks. And then that'll give us like 6 to 8 weeks to get the coop and everything ready, which shouldn't be too much of a hassle. Should be a weekend project, like devoted weekend. We can get it done. But yeah, we'll figure out all the logistics. But anyway, chickens and chicks are imminent. So that's very exciting. Yeah. And let's see what else. Oh, another gigantic undertaking of a project. In the last episode, I shared the sweaters and accessories that I'm going to find new homes for, and I was considering, trying to see who wanted them, and then deciding with the ones that were left over, if I wanted to keep the yarn or not. And like as I was going through them, I was like, some of these I know I want the yarn from, so I'm just gonna frog those. And I frogged the Brioche Hugeness shawl, which was the little, I think it's by Raina something. It's in my Ravelry. The Brioche Hugeness shawl, which was really fun to knit, but I did not like the end result. I have a hard time with shawl, excuse me, Brioche Hugeness shawl, because it's a shawl cowl. It's like shaped like a shawl, but it's connected, so it's a cowl. And I have a hard time with cowls that aren't like infinity cowls that you can loop a bunch of times, because they hang too loose. And then I also realized part of the lack of structure of that cowl was I was using a cotton yarn. Actually, I think it was a cotton silk maybe. It was what I tried to make this out of initially, and I didn't like working with it. I think I got it from Knit Picks. And it was in black, and I paired it with a local yarn, and then it also called for DK or sport. It cannot have been DK. I think it was sport, so I thought I could maybe get away with fingering weight. Anyway, the combination of like the cotton silk and the fingering weight when it should be thicker is why it had no shape. So anyway, I frogged it. I still have the black silk. I think it's silk. It might be cotton. I don't remember. It was cheap. And then this is Trail Mix. I totally forget the dyer. They're local to me, but it's a beautiful colorway. I used some of it to make a baby knit for a friend, but this is about 50 grams. So I will figure out maybe a pair of socks. And then the other project that I frogged, which took a good 2 weeks. Just taking up our dining room table for 2 weeks, half of our dining room table. I had my big umbrella winder and my ball winder and everything, and so it was extra complicated because I had done a tubular bind off and on the whole cardigan, which is a long bind off, on the button band, or not button band, but the the part that goes around your neck and down, and then it's a lot of stitches to have done a tubular bind off and then to undo a tubular bind off on. And it was held double, and it was faded throughout. So that's why it took so long to unravel, because I was working with 2 balls at a time, sometimes 2 completely different balls of yarn. You want to come up here again? Come on up. Come on, wee wee. There you go. But the end result is I have 400 grams skeins of fingering weight again, indie dyed by a Whimsical Wood yarn company. These are some of her Harry Potter colorways. I got these a few years ago, like back when I first started knitting, so I think it's probably 2019. This one's Hermione Granger, this one's Harry Potter, I think. I think this one is Buckbeak, and I think this one is Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw. I think it's Badger, because it's got brown and gray and black. I'm a Hufflepuff, by the way, for whatever that's worth. Yeah, so, and I know J.K. Rowling is a problematic person these days, but I try just to separate the art from the artist. And I also am not actively buying Harry Potter stuff anymore, so don't at me. I still love Harry Potter though. Don't at me. Anyway, Harry Potter colorways. And now I have plenty of sock yarn to make socks for my Make 6 sock goal, which I'll start with that for my next whip, because I only have 2 whips on the go currently, which is usually how it goes for me. I like to focus and actually get things done. I would get overwhelmed and yeah, so I'm usually a sock and a sweater. That's kind of my happy. A sock or an accessory and then a sweater. For a while I was working on the chicks, a sock and a sweater. That was a lot. But I'll show you my socks. So I had initially cast on for the pole dance socks, which they were in the hot right now for a couple of weeks, I want to say, a while ago. It's a free pattern. It's a really cool construction. It's really simple, but it was still too much for what I like for my sock knitting, which is stockinette around. So so I ended up frogging back to the cuffs on those, and then using some more Felici. So this, I think, is palette. Pretty sure it's palette. It might be Cascade. I don't know. I had it lying around. And then this is the self-striping Felici Knit Picks. So I'm using this. This is also the same yarn I used for my friend's daughter's little chick. But yeah, pairing that with that rusty brown, and this is called board shorts. I don't know if you can still get board shorts because they change out their Felici stripes. But it's a really fun colorway, and I think it looks really good with the rust. So that's what my current sock whip is. And then I got to start my 1988 cardigan, which I'll show you the swatch. Although I practically have as much knit as the swatch. Beautiful. I had ordered a bunch of a whole, like, enough knit picks to knit the sweater in purples and tans and pinks, and I hopefully you can hear me over the sink and the kitchen stuff, but you know, it's fine. That's what this mic is for. What was I saying? I'd ordered a bunch of knit picks, didn't really like it. I also already have a cardigan that's in those colors. It's a worsted weight. It's the Maja cardigan. I wear it all the time, especially as like a seasonal transition piece, because cardigans, this will be my next seasonal transition piece. Although it might be just as warmer because of the color work. Well, no, it's fingering weight. I feel like it's a denser fabric though. Anyway, it's gorgeous. I didn't like what I picked out from the knit picks in person. So I was like, there's no way I can get through an all over colorwork sweater in this. I'm gonna look elsewhere. And I found these colors through Harrisville Designs yarn, and it's a very rustic, toothy, and yet still soft. This is the other side, gorgeous yarn. And you can see this is steeked. It's really, that edge is not going anywhere. You're starting to get like a teeny weeny little bit of unraveling up here, but I really don't think it's going to go anywhere, especially if I sew down the button band and do a piece of fabric for the placket. So yeah, or I might do a ribbon. But anyway, that's the swatch, and I got to start, and it's, let me show you. It's a really bizarre construction. I've never made a sweater like this before. Of course, I'm like technically at the beginning of round, but I'm knitting with Magic Loop currently. So this is the neck and shoulders. There's some short row shaping to start off, and then you knit down from the cast on edge for the front of the shoulder, which is these little flower motif, and then you knit in the round and you connect to knit in the round. And then I'm like 2 rows away from where I'm gonna steek and then start knitting a yoke. Like it looks like a drop shoulder pattern from the picture, but it's not technically, because you're knitting, you pick up stitches on the top of the shoulders, and then but then you knit like a regular yoke, like a circular yoke. So it's really interesting. At first I was really intimidated, but I'm like, just gonna go step by step. These charts do make sense if I just read them, and they're easy, and let's just go for it. So so far so good. It feels like it's gonna be way too small, but that's only because it's all like scrunched up on these little needles. And then once I steek it and add the band and everything, it should be fine. But I'm at gauge, believe it or not. It looks too small. There's no way that will fit over. But that's where the circular, I'm just trusting the process here. Trust the process. But anyway, yeah, so this is the 1988 cardigan so far. And that's what I've been working on as far as yarn goes. I was going to share this. So my sister-in-law, also a witch, sent me this for my birthday. It's a cauldron yarn bowl. Isn't that awesome? I don't use yarn bowls much, but I want to use this one. So, and then this is another project I frogged that I said I was going to frog in my last video. This is yarn that it is hand spun from Japan, that I got in a little village outside Tokyo called Okutama. And I had made a little like baby sweater, and I made myself a hat, but it was too tight because the color work. Anyway, long story short, I'm probably just gonna make another little striped hat to match that little baby sweater. So, yeah. So that's the latest on the fiber related stuff. Yeah, let me make sure. Yeah. So I wanted to follow up on books and then from there kind of go into some of my more witchy topics of conversation. I finished reading Body Full of Stars by Molly Caro May. It was good. It also gave me a lot of anxiety. I have anxiety. I take medication for it. And but when I was reading it, I was newly off medication. It's a long story. Hang on. Okay. Long story short, I was feeling good. I tapered. It took months to taper. I went really slow on purpose just to check in at every stage and was doing good. And then tapered off mid-December. Was doing good. Was like, all right, I got this. And then it slowly started to steamroll back up to an unmanageable level of anxiety. So back on good old Lexapro. And it's but I was reading this book before I was back on, like kind of as I was starting to really go downhill, and it just was like overwhelming me. Feeling like, oh my God, so much is wrong with the world. So much is wrong with how we've all been socialized. Like I think, I mean, it's a memoir about, the tagline is female rage and my passage into motherhood. So, and she, like, kind of does a full circle. She's like, it's about her healing through the first couple of years of postpartum with her first kid. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm not far enough away from that stage to appreciate it without feeling like, oh my God, I have so much work to do. But it was good. It was a good book. I would recommend it. It just was triggering for me for whatever reason. But yeah, that book was good. I'm still working through Midwifing Death by Leslie Della Madre, which is 100% in the intersection of a lot of my interests. So I'm going to school, working on prereqs to get into the nursing program, to eventually become a hospice nurse. I wanted to become a end of life companion or a death doula, but I don't want to work for myself currently, and it feels like it would be good to have a nursing degree. So I'm working toward that. And then there's goddess worship and witchcraft. So yeah, all of things, all of the above is in here. It's very woo, this book, and there's so much. Feels like it's more about goddess worship than death, and like how terrible patriarchy is and all this. And I'm like, yes, I agree. Do we have to keep talking about that? Can we like talk about death and the death experience more, and like how we can help shepherd people through that? So I was expecting more of that. There's not as much of that in here as there is goddess worship stuff. But my only other kind of qualm is I feel like it does a lot to it really glorifies goddess worship, and I'm like, there's no way we were living in perfect societies before patriarchy. Like, I don't know if I'm only saying that because I'm living on this side of patriarchy and this side of modern society where patriarchy isn't the only problem. but it really feels like this book is trying to boil down all of our issues to patriarchy. And I'm like, it can't be that simple. Like, and I don't believe there was no conflict before the patriarchal cultures got hold of the whole planet, you know? But anyway, there's still some good, you know, it'd be a really interesting discussion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on any of that. You know, you don't have to have read this book to have opinions on anything I just said. So yeah, there's that, which I'm still working through. I'm kind of starting to speed through the end at this point, and then I'm in a book club, and we're currently reading The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, which is boring. I'm not quite sure how far I am. I think I'm maybe 15% through. I'm listening to the audio on that, and I just would rather listen to podcasts. I listen to it usually so I had more time to listen to stuff when I was going to the gym, and I very recently paused my gym membership because Hazel hates going, and that was a constant source of conflict, and I couldn't take it anymore. So there are other ways that I can exercise, and I could still listen to audiobooks when I do that. And but I just that book's really not grabbing me. So I wouldn't be the first to come to book club not having read that book, or read the book. So I'm not super worried if I don't finish it. I would like to, maybe. I also am in a mode where I'm not going to waste my time on things that aren't interesting. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. My friend is lending me her collection of Alison Bechdel books. So I recently read These Are Graphic Novels, Are You My Mother? And it was really interesting. It was really heady. Like, it's a story about the author's mother and her relationship with her mom. And there's a lot of stuff in there about like psychoanalysis and early psychiatry and like what's the guy's name? The psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott, who was a contemporary of Freud and was really interested in child psychology in particular. So there's a lot about him in there. It was all very interesting. And like there were parts of the story where I recognized myself, and especially like the tendency to navel gaze and like become obsessed with your own issues and that being a potential problem as well. So that was good. And I'm next reading The Secret to Superhuman Strength. I started it, and this will be really interesting because this is about her relationship to exercise and fitness. And she wrote this and drew it when she was approaching 60, I think. That's what it says. But anyway, so that'll be fascinating. I have an interesting relationship with exercise. I grew up asthmatic, and I just recently made the connection that, oh, that's why I didn't like exercise as a kid, because it gave me asthma attacks. And then from there, I also developed a distaste of sweat. I also hate the heat. So exercise or heat are the only reasons you sweat. So I hated sweat. I've come to terms, especially with exercise-induced sweat, I'm totally fine with. I have since grown out of asthma. It will get triggered once in a blue moon, but I've become a lot more. I exercise, and I love it. Cardio is great. I've even become a runner. I sprained my foot in December, so I have not been running since then. And I just recently got back into a regular walking practice, but now my stress fracture in my other foot is flaring up. So now I'm getting into cycling with Hazel in the trailer. And then weightlifting was what I was doing at the gym. So, and I had a dream back in 2020. I was going to start hiking the PCT. That didn't happen for stress fractures in my foot, and I got sick, probably COVID. And then my start date was in March. which I missed because I was sick. And then COVID happened. So I didn't get to do that. It's a someday dream. But anyway, I think I'm really going to enjoy The Secret to Superhuman Strength by Alison Bechdel. So that's probably one I'll finish in a couple of days once I like actually get going. Although her graphic novels are dense, so it's not like a comic book that you know just flip through. So that kind of brings me to my non-specifically witchy reads. Although Midwifing Death is pretty dang witchy. So a little bit more about my background and how I came to witchcraft. Folk magic is kind of my well, I mean, I'm an eclectic witch, which is just for those of you who don't know, the blanket term for witches who dabble in everything. So I was raised evangelical Christian and began deconstructing almost a decade ago now. Is that accurate? We might have still been going to, we were still, so not quite a decade. We were still going to church in 2018, 2019. But before I moved back from Virginia was when I stopped. And honestly, like, I think Virginia was a breaking point because we were so far away physically from our family and community, and we had like started to build community outside of the church. You know, Jamie had, through his work community, I was working from home, so I didn't have anything outside of his work. But anyway, just felt like it was time to make a clean break, I guess. Like, I no longer felt any obligation to keep going to church. And then from there, I felt like I had so much more space to like think, you know, do the whole deconstruction thing. Through this process, though, I never really was able to let go of the idea of the divine, of a creator, and but I didn't really like know how to relate to whatever that was, and I wasn't praying, and I wasn't, you know, I was meditating. That was kind of about it as far as the spiritual practice goes. But I've always been drawn to earth-based, nature-based spiritual practices. And when we moved back to Chico, I saw on Instagram a post about a receptivity circle, a women's circle. So I went to that, and this was right after the summer after my son was born. So he was probably like 8 months old. I also had purchased my first tarot deck when I was pregnant, but didn't start pulling from it until after my son was born. I don't know if this is open. It's not. It's in there. It's the Cosmic Slumber Tarot by Tilly Walden. That was my first deck. I had my cards read by a local witch at a marketplace here, and I traded her one of my art prints for a reading. And yeah, I just started to get into all these, you know, quote, witchy things. And I went to this circle and I was like, oh, this is it. This is a spiritual home. Like, it feels good. It feels yeah, like a spiritual home, and also like a one that's very open, and you know, we can all believe wildly different things, as long as we agree on the practical, like you know, how we treat. Even then there can be disagreements. I don't know, it's the thing that's different about the pagan path versus particularly evangelicalism is that there is not proselytizing. There's not, you're not trying to get other people into the club to save them from the fiery pits of hell. it's a very different mode of being in the world, and it like accepts all these modalities that I recognize as helpful and useful to me in my life. And that was where, anyway, that first circle is where I discovered the Wheel of the Year, which is a Wiccan framework for the whole year. 8 Sabbats for the 4 of them are for the solstices and equinoxes, and 4 of them are cross quarter days in between those. And it's just a way to pay closer attention to what's going on outside. I'm looking outside currently at a tree that's in full leaf. And the, you know, it helps you tap into all the lessons you can learn through the Earth's natural processes. And yeah, from there I started to get more into things like spell work and dabbling in altar building and all that kind of thing. And like there's a very secular way to approach all this too. You don't have to call yourself a witch to participate in any of this. But that October after my son was born, so he was almost 1, was when I was like, no, I think that's what I am. I'm doing all these things. I'm comfortable with that. I want to like make that official, that this is what I'm practicing. So yeah, that was, now it'll be 3 years in this coming October. So I'm like 2.5. Yeah, 2.5, because April is halfway from October. And I think October 4th, today's April 6th, my actual birthday, October 4th is my witchiversary. So anyway, long story short, that's how I got into witchcraft. I would love to answer any questions about it. Yeah, it's fun. It's just fun to play with magic. Like, feel like a kid. I used to make potions in my backyard, like, and now I'm just doing kind of a grown-up version of that. And it's all like, I think one way to look at it is it's a way to engage your senses and engage yourself in the act of shifting your energy and the energy around you to get certain outcomes. So yeah, and I'm still have days of immense doubt and like, what am I doing, playing witch. So it's not straightforward. It's actually been really interesting to see a lot of parallels between my spiritual life as a Christian and my spiritual life as a pagan. I think there's a lot to like delve into with just that statement. But anyway, there's some background for you. I'm going to talk now about some witchy books, and then we'll get into the season that we're in. What else did I want to talk about? And then I also have created an oracle deck. It's been, I don't know how long. I think I started it probably around when Hazel was born, or within that first year. So it's a couple years. Excuse me, it's a couple years in the making, but I'll talk about that at the end. So first, let me talk about some books that I've been reading. One is called Keeping Her Keys, An Introduction to Hecate's Modern Witchcraft by Cindy Brannon. This is like a primer on if you want to work with Hecate as a modern witch. And deity work is something that I'm very new to. Actually, I'm not. I just worked with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for a long time, and Jesus. No longer interested in God the Father, but Jesus I'm open to. Mary, I'm very open to working with her, but she doesn't seem to be interested in working with me, at least not in that form. So it's hard to like, I could just talk and talk and talk and talk about all the nuance of everything that has gone into my thought process and all this stuff. But to try to make a pithy statement on my belief in deity, I think there is a transcendent divine consciousness, and it expresses itself in all these different ways. And that's what our pantheon is. All of our various pantheons, the Christian pantheon, the Greek pantheon, the Hindu pantheon, etc., etc. Hecate is a goddess who started knocking on my heart's door. God. I think over I've been working through this book. It's been almost a year. You're supposed to take 13 months to go through the whole book, do a chapter a month, and kind of sit with the lessons and everything. So I'm almost there. So I've been working with her about that long. The last few months I've felt less connected, but and more connected with other expressions of the divine. But I have a little altar to Hecate up here. This is my little Hecate section. And it's not like the most brilliantly written book, but it's a good primer for getting involved with Hecate. And then a book I picked up at I go to therapy at a place called like the Holistic Wellness Center something. I don't remember. They all kind of sound the same, right? All those kinds of woo places. Anyway, they have a bookstore, and I grabbed You Are the Medicine by Asha Frost. It really like struck me. 13 Moons of Indigenous Wisdom, Ancestral Connection, and Animal Spirit Guidance. Like those tick all my boxes. So it's also Indigenous wisdom. It's by an Indigenous author. It's she is Chippewa. She's a member of the Chippewa of Nawash First Nation, which I believe Ojibwe. I want to say that's like the Midwest. Yeah. But yeah, it's and then it's lunar magic, which I'm very into, and animal spirit magic. Anyway, I love Indigenous spirituality. I have kind of been low-key obsessed with it since I was a little girl. I've also always been afraid to engage with it because I'm white. And that really has felt like an off-limits piece of spirituality. But I live on Indigenous land, and those spirits are still here. And something I really appreciate about this author is she has a whole foreword about how to engage with this book as a white person. And I really appreciate that she not only is inviting us to participate, but giving us a framework on how to do it respectfully. So would highly recommend this. There's a lot of meditations. They're called medicine journeys, which, like, if I was going to quote, do it right, I would record it and then listen to it and try to really engage that way. But I haven't really had the capacity to do any of that, and that's okay. Bottom line, what I'm kind of doing is, this is my full moon book. This is my dark moon book. So I read this before the dark moon. I read this before the full moon. Give me two sides of that coin. And then I just picked up and just started reading Earth Witch, Finding Magic in the Land by Britton Boyd, who is an author. I found them through their podcast with J. Allen Cross called Invoking Witchcraft, which is no longer running, but excellent. Love those two. J. Allen Cross wrote American Brujeria, which I have. I'm also a quarter Mexican and like trying to figure out how much of that I can claim as a white woman who can barely speak Spanish. He's like, no. You have, join us. I just have so much gratitude for people who invite us into their spaces. When we have strong armed ourselves into their spaces for so long, they still have the grace to do that is amazing. Anyway, excited to read this. I think I'm partway through the intro. And then just a little preview of kind of what's next for me on my book list. Night School, The Night School by Maya Toll. This is the journal. I'm waiting for the actual book to show up. But Maya Toll, I have the little oracle deck as well, of the bestiary, crystallary, and herbiary decks and wild wisdom. Love her decks, love her writing, and I'm really excited to get into Night School. So I will just read the back of the Moonlit Magic deck. Explore the magic and mystery of the night. Further your magical practice with bite-sized mantras, rituals, essential concepts, and key symbols in this 100-card deck inspired by Maya Toll's The Night School. So the Night School, it's basically I'm trying to figure out a way to sum up what drew me to this. Basically, it's like there's a lot of magic and mystery in the night, and we got to get comfortable with that mystery and the not being able to see with our eyes, and kind of tapping more into intuition and what our shadow selves can teach us, etc., etc. That's all the stuff I'm interested in. So yeah, that's all of that. We're at an hour. There will be some edits because I have been interrupted a few times by my child. But I just want to talk briefly. So we're kind of in between Ostara and Beltane as far as the Sabbats. It is fully spring here. We had like a couple weeks of heat, like 80 degrees, which felt horrible. I really belong in the north where it's cold and weather, at least at night, year round. I was born in Ireland, so I blame that on why I love the rain and the wet and the cold and hate the sun. It's also why I'm definitely lean more towards the lunar magic versus solar magic. Anyway, Ostara is a spring festival, a spring equinox celebrating the spring, has a lot of roots, or Easter, as we celebrate it today, has a lot of roots in the pagan celebrations of Ostara, so you're probably familiar with a lot of it. The dyeing of the eggs, the rabbits, the just celebrating spring, all the things of spring, which is how we celebrate Easter from a secular perspective in America. And I am living in a blended household, so my husband is still a Christian. He takes issue with a lot of behaviors of people who call themselves Christians because he's a decent human being who can see with his eyes what's going on. But yeah, he still holds to the basic tenets of the faith. He also has a lot of issues with the way a lot of modern Christians interpret the Bible, etc., etc. A whole nother topic I'm not going to get into right now. I was not going to speak for him. But anyway, we do celebrate Easter from a Christian perspective as well in this house, which I'm totally okay with. But and we did have Easter dinner with my family yesterday, and I made hot cross buns for the first time, which Jamie liked. I thought they tasted weird. I wasn't super into them, but yeah. I also made deviled eggs, which were delicious. I love eggs, which is one big reason why we're getting chickens. We eat so many eggs. But yeah, so that's Ostara. It's all about rebirth, transformation. The equinoxes in particular, there's a lot of emphasis on transformation and like life and death cycle, life and rebirth, or rebirth and death, I should say. Because it is that like balance time. But also Beltane, which is coming up, is really about like mega abundance and fecundity and sexuality and ripeness and like really getting into the bursting at the seams of late spring into early summer, which it's a nice time of year here in Chico. It's not too hot, but May is when it starts to get too hot for my liking. It really feels like summer begins in May, if not mid-April sometimes. It also sometimes snows in the foothills here in mid-April, so it's spring. Typical spring. So that's kind of what's going on around here seasonally. I'm gonna switch over. I currently have a lot of Ostara stuff up. I'm gonna switch over things to Mayday and Beltane, and yeah. What else do I want to talk about? I like to use the Seasons of the Witch Oracle decks. So I'll be switching over to Beltane. I've been using the Ostara one for a while. Feeling ready to make that switch. So yeah. But what else? What else do I want to say? I think I might have a little more prepared next time as far as like an herb profile or a crystal profile, or maybe I'll share some Oracle deck reviews. But I've talked a lot about a lot of stuff and a lot about books, and I've caught you up on all the books that I'm into, and it's not like I go through them very quickly. So once I'm caught up, as in this episode, that should take less time, and then I can talk a little more about other things. But yeah, and I would love to also to incorporate fiber magic as well. There's a great book by Opal Luna called Fiber Magic, which is all about how you can incorporate magic into your fibercraft. So yeah, that's cool. So to end, I'm going to share a little bit about my Oracle deck and pull a card. I have actually never pulled a card for myself from this deck because I literally have, I'm going to open this thing. Sorry. The cards in their original form on watercolor and ink. So we'll see how they do as far as shuffling and whatnot. Let's see. There we go. But it's called the Sacred Southwest Oracle deck. It's not terrible. I have taken pictures of them all, so they can start to be used. Not yet, baby. I'm almost done. Okay, you just got to be quiet. Yes, you be quiet. You're doing great. I'm almost done. Oh, that shuffle didn't go well. They're like almost too big for my hands, and I'm doing it on my knee currently around my cat. There we go. All right. Do one more shuffle. All right, you ready? You ready, little deck? Not talking to you, Hazel. Stay in there. I'm not done. I'm talking to the podcast people. I'm recording a podcast. Whoop. I'm dropping stuff. I'm not talking to you, Hazel. Okay, cat. Yes, I said, are you ready? But I wasn't talking to you. Let's get one more shuffle. This is not going great. That's okay. All right. Okay. What card do we have today? A message for all of us collectively here. The moon. So the moon represents, I'm just going to read straight from my guidebook because I wrote it and I'm going to use it. All right. I'm not going to try to pronounce the Navajo or Diné name, but you can read it. And I will be including it down below. When the moon card appears in a reading, it is asking you to pause, rest, and reflect. The moon has been associated with water and the feminine across cultures, and in the desert, it also represents the chilly respite of night from the oppressive heat of the sun during the day. It is our gentle, guiding light, inviting you to take a moment for yourself in solitude and perhaps to take an honest look at the shadows you are hiding from yourself. Shadow work is best done from a place of groundedness and openness, and the moon offers you her strength to do this work effectively. Or maybe you just need to get some extra sleep and go to bed early and trust that the moon is taking care of you. Lastly, the moon invites you to sink into the cyclicality of life. Everything is cyclical, from the laundry to the very lives we live. If we can embrace that the work is never done, and we are merely moving through cycles of maintenance and growth as the face of the moon does, it can free us to enjoy the journey and become more aware of the miracles available to us all. Rest, these are the divinatory meanings, just kind of keywords. Rest, rejuvenation, the feminine, darkness and the shadow self, cycles of life, water, emotions, divine guidance and care, and trust. And then with each of these entries, I also have a ritual and some natural history. So some of them are quite long, though. So let me know if you want me to read more. Next time, I can do that. But anyway, I will leave you with that. Some lunar medicine for you. Where are we at in the lunar cycle? We are in the waning. I have my notebook locked up here behind me. Let me see. Oh, it's open. Good. The moon is currently, as of today, in Sagittarius, disseminating. So, waning towards the dark moon, which is my favorite time of the lunar cycle. In Sag, I don't think I have any Sagittarius in my chart. I don't know much about astrology, but I would love to learn more. All right, I'm going to free the child. And before I go, if you've made it this far, thank you. I appreciate it. Let me know what you think about kind of the shift here into more of the witchy side of things. And yeah, I hope you're here for it. Because I'm going to keep going because I could talk about it forever. And yeah, I think it's cool and exciting and fun. So, and it helps me make sense of a lot of things in life. And I hope it maybe can help you too with some of the things I've shared. Yeah, and I feel like I got a lot done as far as knitting goes, maybe to the detriment of the cleanliness of my house or other things in my life, perhaps. But I've been really inspired, partly because I know that this podcast, I'm trying to show up with things to share. It's not like a pressure thing. It's definitely like I want to work on that so I can share it kind of thing. So, and I tend to do well with that outside accountability. So that's another reason why I started this. It's because I felt like I wanted to manufacture some of that for myself. So, yeah. So, no matter how much time you have to yourself, I hope that you take some of it to make something just for you that delights you, wherever you are in the margins of your life, that you take some time for yourself and make something for yourself. And until we pick up the thread again, I hope that you have a great rest of your day. I wanted to recommend another podcast for you to listen to. So I just finished catching up on Pearlwise podcast by Claire. I think I shouted her out last time as well, but I'm going to do it again because she also just opened a membership option. And yeah, I love her. I love her taste. I really love her presence. I think she's cool. So go check out Pearlwise podcast if you're looking for something to watch after this. All right. With that, I will let you go. I hope you have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, and until we meet again, goodbye.